Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the channel. It's Cynicalex, and with the rework introducing a brand new Asgardian invasion Hela, a lot of players, myself included, have been looking at new ways to leverage her uniform bonus effect, because it's huge. All allies get a 50% increased damage to heroes, and they receive 30% less damage. Most of the time when you look at different buffs that are going to reduce hero damage or increase the damage you deal to heroes, it immediately applies to PvP. And although we haven't seen the mass adoption of Hela in PvP as some may have predicted or may have thought would happen, I still got to tinkering. Not necessarily with Hela, although there is a video coming for her later, but with another female villain, Captain Marvel. So this video is all about Captain Marvel and basically my trial and error. Emphasis on error here, emphasis on failure for trying to make this character who came out and seemed like possibly a decent counter to villain teams, particularly at the time when she came out. Doctor Doom had just been minted at tier 3, because you go ahead and look at her uniform effect, and although it only applies to herself, it sounds a lot like the inverse of Hela's. Increased damage dealt to villains by 50%, decreased damage received from villains by 50%, and then a 40% basic damage reduction. So you're like, wow, man, that's kind of a lot. So then I was thinking, as you may be thinking now, what happens if you do this, Alex? You're telling me that Captain Marvel is walking around with 50% decrease or 30% decreased damage from heroes, 50% decreased damage from villains, and 50% increased damage to heroes and villains across the board. She's got a 50% buff to her damage and a 30 to 50% decrease in incoming damage. But what if then you do this, man? Is she like unkillable? Is this team just like too good? Obviously, Molecule Man has something to say about all of these teams and essentially the rest of the video, but let's just ignore Molecule Man for a second. I'm going to give you a brief rundown of her build. We have no Odin's Blessings, although we've got, attack and HP Urus. We've got the stage 12 Power of Angry Hulk, hopefully with all of the HP rolls here. That one is dodge. Unfortunately, I have to fix that. No artifact, and then actually a CTP of Destruction. And then we've got a Mythic Uniform, if I can ever press the uniform button. And we've got dodge, double HP, defense, and energy attack. So what happens, right? You're probably wondering. You're like, Alex, I don't really feel like tier 3ing my Captain Marvel. I don't really feel like buying that, 1,000 crystal cost uniform. I don't really feel like A, B, C, D, E, F, G. So let's go ahead and see what happens. I'm going to put this one on auto for you guys. I'm actually going to switch out here because I'm pretty sure Hela is going to kill Sentry for me first. But this video isn't about Hela. This video is about Captain Marvel. So okay, she takes about half her HP in damage, but she ends up taking Sentry's first life. Very cool here. And okay, she kills Sentry's second life, hanging on by a thread with 5,000 HP. Again, this is on auto, so you can forgive the AI for being a little bit clunky. There she dies to Lord Colossus, as most characters do. And then we're done. Okay, so that wasn't so bad. What's going on? Well, let's do a couple of other test runs here. Let's try a different team. For example, let's try a team that is all heroes. We can take advantage of Hela's insane leadership, right? Or not insane leadership, insane passive, and see what happens. Again, there may be holes to this team that I'm obviously ignoring at the moment. Here, we're going to switch to Captain Marvel to see what she can do. She pops her fourth skill. Okay, she does a boatload of damage. Wow. She actually takes him out. Okay, she does her third skill. She gets interrupted. She does 4. She takes down Cersei. Okay, this is... Hey! Maybe I gotta change my tone. Alright. For those of you wondering what is going on, I mean, she's doing a pretty good job right now on auto, which is nice. In my experience, and I've been testing for the past hour or so, it's not so great. The top 2 teams are a little bit weaker, I would say, in terms of their builds. I think when you go down a little bit further, I'm just taking it from the top of Vibranium here, folks. But if you go a little bit further down, you will see some pretty stacked teams in terms of having artifacts. That Cersei didn't even have her artifact there. So let's see what Captain Marvel can do here. She pops her 4th skill. She kills. Okay, Gilgamesh is gone. Cool. All right, this was supposed to be a tragic video, but maybe this is gonna end well. Let's see here. She takes a whole boatload of damage. She does end up getting the kill, and she still has her 4th skill off cooldown, but she succumbs to the awakened Cersei after the revive. And this is a common tactic now with whales having access to multiple high star artifacts. Yes, you're going to lose a lot to this team. So basically, you know, this is cool. She actually did better than I thought she would. We'll do one more run here before I take it back to the drawing board to explain what's going on. But yeah, this is honestly, let's try from the beginning. Let's say if you switch right at the beginning, not everyone is going to want to wait a little bit longer to switch. You can see she takes a boatload of damage. She's already there. That's kind of the result that I was experiencing. I'm not saying that Captain Marvel's bad, but I was hoping when I first started my testing, before I even turned on the camera and started recording, I was hoping that I could title this video, you know, like budget PvP team takes down the meta, right? Like, why are you gonna spend 3,000 CCF on Sentry, a bazillion crystals on Doctor Doom, when you can just spend 2,000 crystals on Hela and Captain Marvel's uniform? You don't even need to tier 3 Hela, so you just need to tier 3 Captain Marvel. Captain Marvel's in the 800 tier 3 selectors as well, so she's technically a free tier 3, and bada bing bada boom. And I'm not even using a reforged CTP, or so I thought. But yeah, what's basically happening is, unfortunately, despite my vigorous efforts to stack as many of these buffs as possible, these crazy superhero supervillain buffs, there's just too many holes in Captain Marvel's kit. And although I switched to Captain Marvel some of the time, or every single time, some of the times she would die or Hela would get some damage, and Hela actually almost performs better than Captain Marvel does with basically a near identical build, except she's got a mighty CTP of destruction instead of a regular CTP of destruction. So why is that? Why does Captain Marvel have too many holes in her build? Well, for starters, she has no healing. That's a big humongous hole. Secondly, she has no penetration outside of her ultimate skill, Binary Break. Now you can make up for that with the destruction CTP, but you're plugging one hole to expose another hole. So I give her the destruction to give her penetration, which means she can punch through some Doctor Dooms and yada yada yada. But then the flip side to that is she has no healing. So when the fight goes a little bit longer, or when you have a bit of a tankier opponent, her lack of healing is going to be massively exposed, which is obviously not good. And then you have other problems. She basically doesn't have any other pieces of her kit that you would really want to utilize. Like, she really just has one really good bread and butter skill, which is her fourth skill with the iframe ignore. That's it. That's all you got. So Hela's obviously going to struggle here against villains, as you expect Hela to struggle. But now let's see. Captain Marvel was sort of made to take down villains. Let's see. She pops off. Doesn't have enough damage to take down Doctor Doom. She tanks pretty well. She does take the damage really well. But as you can see, she's at 55% of her HP remaining, and now she's going to have to deal with Doom's revive. That's the other thing. Captain Marvel doesn't have a revive, doesn't have an artifact yet that gives her a revive. She ends up clinching it here. So I would say that there's definitely a possibility for Captain Marvel to be a good counter to teams that try and take advantage of Hela plus Doom, because as you can see, Captain Marvel, she's taking very little damage. Again, despite not having a heal, she takes so little damage from villains that she ends up dying to Lord Colossus. So this is hilarious. She's actually a lot better than I thought. Well, I'm gonna lose. She's actually a lot better than I had experienced in my testing. It's so funny. Usually it's the opposite. I test off stream, I test off camera, and it's amazing. And then I turn the camera on and it's terrible. But now it's actually really, really good. She almost single-handedly took down that team. And this team is actually like my team. And the cool thing about Captain Marvel is you can be modular about it. Now, you can't put Molecule Man on your team because he's just going to remove and he's going to ignore all of Captain Marvel's uniform buffs. And that's basically what's making her tick as far as being able to face tank villains. But you could even do something as budget friendly as that, because Hela wasn't adding much to that team. She was just adding the 60% energy attack. So as crazy budget as this is, check it out. So obviously Wasp is going to eat the dust fairly quickly here. That's fine. But then Captain Marbles comes in, pops the 4, and it's lights out for my man Doom. Now she doesn't get the penetration there, which is absolute tragedy, but she's going to catch him here. Wow, she doesn't catch him there either. Toxic. She's only got like a 36% chance to penetrate. It's a little bit higher than 30%, as you can see here. No, that's the insight. 30. Yeah, it is 36%. Okay, so she ends up taking down both Dooms. Now, ideally, you would want more to happen here because we do have Hela to take care of. But she's actually taking down Hela with the artifact. No way. Stop. And so that's so good. And so the really cool. Baby girl, Carol Danvers. And so the really cool thing is Hela doesn't have iframe ignore. And there are some villains, even Molecule Man doesn't have iframe ignore, but you don't want to fight Molecule Man. But how bonkers is that? That's pretty cool, eh? So I don't want to overstate how cool and how strong she is because she's not that strong. And like I said, it is really a matter of plugging one weakness for another. If Captain Marvel were to get an artifact like Hela's, like Wolverine's, that would be huge. Or even if she got an artifact like Gilgamesh's, where once her HP gets to a certain amount, it heals her and increases her HP, right? An artifact like that to shore up her defensive weakness would be big. But at this point, I kind of feel bad because I really want to give her a regen or even possibly an authority to shore up her defenses, give her more damage reduction, give her a heal, something, right? But then she's not going to have any penetration. And you're going to get to that point where she's just yo-yoing the character from 100% down to 50. It triggers their invincibility proc, or they trigger their iframe and stop you from doing damage with 4. And then you just repeat that process all over again. Because even with the destruction procking and her having a 240% damage proc, she doesn't have enough damage to pop off and one-tap Doctor Doom. And we saw her struggle in that fight there to basically do the same thing. But again, you can continue to modulate this team with different supports. So you can even do something like this. You can even do something like this. And this team is actually very budget friendly. Again, you don't need to tier 3 Ebony Maw at all. But you can go ahead and take this team, and this team actually performs really well against stacked all villain teams that are trying to take advantage of the Hela buffs here. This guy has a very good PvP team, and I'm pretty sure Captain Marvel just eats this team alive. So let's see here. This is actually going a lot better than I thought. I thought Captain Marvel was going to get dunked as my testing. She was getting dunked like 50% of the time. But for PvP testing, getting dunked 50, there we go, so the penetration triggered. But again, it's a 36% chance to trigger. See, and she chunks him. There she chunked him down. It was 150 a pop. So there it took like 3 hits, 2.5 hits. Taking a lot of damage from Hela here. Can she finish her off? No. You can see Carol just doesn't have the damage, right? You can absolutely see that her damage fluctuates and just doesn't necessarily give her enough juice. So imagine this is with a destruction, right? The destruction gives her a crit damage, 240% proc every. It's a 6-second proc, by the way, because for those of you wondering why her proc is higher, you're like, Alex, I go over here and I see a 200% basic damage increase. And then it's for 5 seconds. Why are you hovering over and it says 6 seconds? It's because her Carol Core passive, like Rogue's passive, like Lizard's passive, increases all of the buffs she's getting and increases their duration. That also applies for her regular Frenzy buffs, but unfortunately she doesn't have any other really good active buffs. Like if she had an active heal, even if it was a small heal, like 3%, that 3% would get increased by 20%, which would probably bump it close to 4%. And then its duration would get increased. That's why if you look at Rogue's heal, it says it's whatever for however much time, but it actually heals for more and lasts longer. So she's getting a 240% proc, which is crazy, right? And she's getting a 36% chance to penetrate with a regular destruction, and it's still not enough to one-tap Hela, still not enough to one-tap Doctor Doom, and those are the enemies that she absolutely must one-tap with her uniform effect, like 50% increased damage, right? And then plus Ebony, you know? So I can't say that taking off her destruction and giving her a regen would solve her issues. It may make her tanky, but it's going to make her even weaker, and she's already weak enough to the point where she's not one-shotting. She's not even two-shotting sometimes, right? She sort of 3-shot Doctor Doom the second time around, but I think we got kind of lucky there. So it's kind of, it's like a beautiful mess, right? It's like a broken mirror that you glued back together. Captain Marvel seems like a really nice budget option for PvP, and you can also, her autoplay is fine, but you can manually play her a little bit better, and you can spam, for example, her second skill. It actually is really nice to be spammed because of how fast the iframe is, and it looks super cool, and I'll show you here. I'll take it off auto. We'll let Ebony bite the dust on this one, and then we'll go all in on marbles here, but we pop the 4, we can pop the 2 there. Oh no, we got interrupted. Boom, we get the 5 off. Nice. Okay, she's gonna take a bunch of damage here, so then we're gonna have to pop this. Chunks them down. Very nice. 2 flash damage, and you can stack it into 5, and then you can stack it back into 2, back into 4. So you can actually chain iframes when you play manually with just 2 5 and 4, and it actually looks really cool. She kind of spins around and stands there and then just flashes through the enemy, and it looks really dope. But yeah, it doesn't end up having she doesn't end up having the impact I wanted. I mean, I think this is good. If you calculate the total cost of this team versus ARM's team, it's significantly lower. However, I don't think it's going to be as consistent, and for most players, they're just looking for 1 or 2 very expensive but very consistent players for PvP, whether it's Sentry or whether it's Doctor Doom. So maybe I'll revisit this team. Maybe I'll revisit Captain Marvel if villains really start to overpower and overtake PvP. But even with Hela's introduction, although it's only been about a week, we just don't see that many Hela teams in PvP. I can go ahead and refresh for you, and we can count how many Hela teams we see. We actually still see a lot of the same teams. The only real new team that we see overtaking the charts is this team right here. And this, of course, Captain Marvel is not going to have a good time here because of her uniform passive not applying. Well, it applies to Colossus, but that doesn't really matter. And if she has trouble taking down Doom because he's too tanky, imagine what's going to happen against Gilgamesh. We saw her take down one Gilgamesh team, but yeah. As you can see here, we do 10 plus refreshes, not a single Hela in sight. And I imagine it's going to be the same throughout. I mean, if you're not seeing Hela in Vibranium, you're not going to see Hela in the lower leagues as much, because Vibranium is where more whales are and more spending players. And if the spending players don't want to 800 CCF tier 3 and spend 1,000 crystals for her uniform, then why would lower spending and free-to-play players, right? That kind of makes sense. We'll do one more fight here against the team that you might be imagining she would do well with Hela, but in this case, this team right here. But in this case, it really just comes down to Gilgamesh having way too much HP and being way too tanky for Captain Marvel to really do much against, even with all of Hela's buffs. I'll actually show you. Hela actually does better, I think, than Captain Marvel does. If Hela gets the kill here, I don't know, she's gonna die to Gilgamesh too. Oh, you can see Hela does crazy damage. She actually gets the kill. And it's kind of sad because Captain Marvel's uniform is not even that old, but uniforms nowadays are just built different. They're just 100% built different. Like, they hit for so hard and for so much damage that it's wild. You know, and the iframes and the priority of iframes and things like that. She chunks down Cersei. Now she's got a... No, she gets charmed. Toast. That was actually not bad. That was better than I thought. But in general, I wouldn't recommend building up Captain Marvel to fight against heroes. I would build her up to fight against villains because of that uniform effect. So yeah, that's what I wanted to bring to you guys today. I just wanted to, you know, do something kind of unusual and talk about a character that I really didn't talk about much, because with all the fanfare around Hela, it just immediately dawned on me that she has an even better buff, although it doesn't apply, so it's not a support buff, but she has an even better buff for villains. So I thought, oh, everyone's going to use Doom and Hela, just counter with the Last Avenger, Captain Marvel. And it kind of works, but at the same time, I'm not 100% sure. I'm not personally sold on it, and I don't think I'd be comfortable leaving my phone on autoplay for that. So yeah, hit me up in the comments down below. Let me know what you think of her performance. Did it surprise you, or were you expecting that? Or do you use her already on your PvP team and you knew what I was going to say? Thanks so much for watching. Smash the like button if you enjoyed the content, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.